I'm quite excited to introduce our next speaker. As you know, Uber is now a shorthand word in every industry for making things simpler. You have Uber for dry cleaning, you have different agencies say we want to be Uber for student loans, and I'm really excited to have Tom Hayes here from Uber to speak today. Tom is Uber's general manager for DC, Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia. During his time at Uber, he's been general manager for New Orleans and Atlanta and launched a number of products across the Southeast, including Tampa and Memphis. Prior to joining Uber, Tom's held a variety of positions, including being a math teacher in New Orleans, a recruitment and development director for Teach for America, and the founder of Haystack EDU, which is a job matching site for teachers. Please join me in welcoming Tom to the stage. Yeah, my pleasure.
All right, good morning. Thank you all for having me. One of the things that didn't actually get mentioned is when I finished college, went down to New Orleans to teach. I got there for a week, and then Hurricane Katrina hit, actually. So I was with Teach for America, and we ended up partnering with FEMA right after the storm. So I actually have worked for FEMA as well. So it's fun to be in front of this audience here today. Before I kind of get into the kind of the newest things that we're doing, thought it's helpful to kind of step back for a second and really define what we mean as customers when we think about customers. But first, just a quick poll. Who's taken an Uber before? All right. How many people took an Uber today to get here? All right. And how many people have tried driving for Uber? Anyone out there? So the reason I actually asked that is at Uber, we consider riders a customer base, but we also consider our drivers to be a very important part of our customer base. We essentially are kind of the intermediary or the connecting function of a two-sided platform. So the drivers are very, very important, if not the most important part of being able to make this function. So I'm going to walk through both our rider experience and then also our driver experience today. One thing to note of just a brief bit of history, I've been with Uber for about 3 years. When I started, I was essentially asked to launch markets, and we've really come a long way since that time. I basically went down to Tampa and Memphis and was trying to get both those started at the same time. And the customer support experience right at the very beginning of those markets were really just me. I answered every single rider email. I answered every single driver email that came in. And since then, we've obviously come a long way. We're in 6 continents, about 70 countries, over 400 cities. Across the world. Obviously, I'm not doing all the support tickets anymore, thank God. And we have a big support organization to do that. But what I'm actually going to focus on mostly is our interaction within the app today between customers and how they experience things that way to talk about experience. So I already mentioned that. From our very beginning, and I think the reason why we've been successful from the get-go is we have been convenient, safe, affordable, and reliable. And from the very beginning, kind of what was available or relative to the status quo, that is really what set us apart. Uber was formed with the notion, get a ride at the touch of a button. As we've evolved, we've added a few things, but basically from the very beginning, you've been able to push the button when you get connected with a driver. You're able to see the driver's picture, their license plate information, so you make sure you're getting in the right car. That increases encourages safety. When you think about when you think about convenience. Right now, across the metro area, you can get a ride on an average of under 4 minutes. So that's steadily gone down over time. So that's been important there. We've started as a luxury product where it was pretty expensive, but over time we've come down. We launched UberX, which made this a lot more accessible, and then we've launched Uber Pool, which has made it even more accessible for people out there to be able to experience as well. And then also you know about the rating system that goes back and forth. But all of those things have been the cornerstone, and really that customer experience, I think, has allowed us to really flourish and grow. And then there's a few other things that you may not even know about. You can actually open your app and check your rating. I don't know if you know how to do that. You go to the payments and an account setting under the help menu and follow a few other prompts, and you'll be able to actually find out what your rider rating is. You can create a business or family profile really simply in the app. If you have, say, college children, you can easily add them and cover all their rides, as I'm sure you would do as wonderful parents out there. And then something recently we've done is you can actually schedule a ride now. So for a while, one of the big questions that continued to come up was, why can't you schedule a ride? And our service is really built on the on-demand notion, but eventually, the questions kept coming up, and we were listening to customers and have finally implemented that feature. So that's kind of the basics of where Uber is at. I'm not sure, and if you guys are usual and constant users, we're in the midst of a rollout of a new app right now that has tried to make this even simpler. One of the challenges is when we started, we had one product. It was really simple. Push a button, get a ride, and as I'm sure many of you have known, that space on the bottom of the app has just continued to fill up, and sometimes the words are even crossing each other, and that ultimately doesn't make for such a great experience. So we essentially had a very similar app since 2012 and until recently for Rider. So we knew that it was time to upgrade and introduce a new experience. So I'm going to actually show a real quick video here that just kind of introduces the app, and then I'll talk about it a little bit more. All right, so that was just a real quick kind of sizzle video on what the new app is like. Really, the concept of it is built on this notion of where to. If you remember from the previous app, some of you may still be using it, it was really focused on getting where you currently were right as a first thing. But when you think about it, if you're trying to go somewhere, you're not really focused on where you are. You know where you are. You're trying to go somewhere and get there. So that has become the kind of primary focus and initial thing that you deal with when getting in the app. And there's a number of things we've done to make that better. And I think I need to switch back to PowerPoint here. So when you look at the app here, those buttons on the bottom, the little circular things with the clock, is actually our app, if you're a frequent user, predicting where you might be going. So we know the frequency at where you go to places. So the app's actually able to predict and guess, okay, they're leaving from around this area. There's a good chance they're going to be going to X, Y, and Z area. So now you don't even have to enter it. It really becomes just about pushing a button again. And then also, one of the things we heard loud and clear, especially when dynamic pricing was in effect, was that it could be confusing around how much is this actually going to cost me. Ultimately, you had to do math. Often, of course, we serve folks late at night. Bars are closing, where math may be a little tougher to do. So we've implemented this feature where you now get your fare up front, and you can kind of scroll through the options and see what the different pricing is right from the get-go. So it's really simple, really easy to understand there. Also, we've in the new feed incorporated and tried to make it really easy to see while you're on the trip all the really useful information that you may need to know. We have the ability to alert people when you're going to be there. You can actually share with your loved ones and have them track your trip as you're on it too. And also, right here on the right, there's an ad for Uber Eats. It's a separate app. So now that you know when you're going to arrive, that sort of information, you can get on the Uber Eats app and order a burrito and have it actually arrive at your destination at the same time that you are. And then there's kind of a series of other features that we're continuing to work on and roll out as part of the new app. They're not quite all up yet, but you can see things like train times and stuff. So if you're taking this to a train station or trying to catch a bus or catch a plane, you'll have times pop up right in the app. You can see restaurant reviews where you're going. And then we even have, we're working on a special Snapchat filters that you can kind of share with your friends and do that. And I expect this to continue to evolve, but it's really built on personalization and what you're experiencing. And then, of course, you have the opportunity to continue to rate and do all that at the end of the trip as well. So let me talk about the driver experience a little bit as well. As I said, drivers are very, very much someone we consider to be customers. I think this is an area that we are continuing to work on getting better at. Quite frankly, I think the experience on the rider front has really, really taken off, and we're working to make sure we can make it as magical on the driver side. And we've implemented a number of things to help to do that. So what makes driving with Uber rewarding? We actually survey and ask our drivers, why do they decide to do this? Why have they chosen to partner with Uber? And it really comes down to three main categories when we kind of tie it all together. Obviously, it's the ability to make a living and earnings and to have a clear understanding of how that's going and what that means. The flexibility, this is probably the thing that drivers love the most. There's no scheduling. It's totally on their own. They can work on their complete own schedules and have the opportunity to do that. And then also safety. So the driver app has gone through a number of modifications as well. In fact, when you were initially a driver, you had to actually come into Uber and get an Uber issued iPhone before you could get on the app. Now, of course, you can download it from the iTunes or Play Store and be able to do that. One of the very cool features of this is it's one app designed to work across the entire globe. So we have over 50 language settings. It's pretty cool to think about, a stay-at-home mom in San Francisco using the same app as someone who lives in Santiago, for example. So for the driver, we have very clear and try and make it very easy to understand how much they're earning on each trip, how much they're earning across the board. Again, it's a personalized feed. The hot spots there are where Uber is surging. Basically means there's high demand, opportunity to make more money. Instant Pay is a feature we released recently. Previously, you had to wait a full week to get paid. We paid on essentially a week increment. You're now able to, through a debit card, deduct instantly to a card. So you could take a trip and then get that money right away. And that's something drivers have really appreciated. Flexibility, built on this notion of just like push a button, get a ride, push a button, get work. Obviously, our drivers are going through a comprehensive background check process, but once they're on, they're good, and they can just simply log on, and it's pretty simple. And then we now have a feature also. Let's say you're deciding to stop soon, you need to get home for dinner. You can actually put in destinations as a way to only get trips that will take you in a certain direction, so that we make sure we get people home for the right time. And then rider details, you get a feed, easy way to communicate via text, telephone. You get your rider's name, so you're able to also on the driver's side confirm that you have the right person there from the safety standpoint. And we also have in-app, in-person, and in-person support. So everything is now done through the app from a support function. But we also have green light hubs throughout the country, throughout the area, where people can actually come in and get their issues resolved in person. So just really quickly, what's next? We actually rolled out compliments, I believe it was last week, where you have the opportunity to give compliments to your driver, not just the star rating, but kind of say things and give badges essentially for things that you think the drivers have done well. I think when you talk to drivers, of course, this is a money-making opportunity for them, but they want their work to be meaningful. They want to provide great customer service themselves, and this helps kind of reinforce that they're doing a good job, and an opportunity for riders to be able to show that. And then similar to the destinations, you're soon going to be able to do an arrive by time as well for drivers too. So it's designed for drivers, or with drivers, for drivers, and our hope is to make it really rewarding. This is just a really quick look into how we really try and focus and dive into detail on the customer experience, both on the rider and driver side, to make that connection as magical as possible. So really appreciate you having me, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much.